Today what I want to speak about is onboarding data into Splunk. So your organization bought a new Splunk instance and you would like to onboard some data into Splunk, or your organization have been using Splunk for quite some time and then you found some new data that you want to onboard into Splunk. So the normal methods, what you would do is you set up a intermediary, you set up Splunk connect for syslog, you onboard data from syslog ng. There's a multitude of ways of doing it, right? You can even write data to be onboarded through file monitoring. So the topic of today's video is how to onboard data the right way. So when you're onboarding data, what you would have to do is, first, before you send your data to the production index, you have to create a test index, or if you have a Splunk instance that you can use as a development server, you onboard the data to that server first, and then you make sure that the field extractions are proper or the data is breaking properly, and then once you're happy with it, you send it to your prod index, right? So the reason why we recommend doing that is because sometimes when you're onboarding data, Splunk doesn't understand how to break your data properly. So as you might be aware, Splunk do have field breaking ability, like logs gets broken properly, but sometimes it doesn't break properly due to multitude of reasons. It can happen because of any number of reasons, right? So if you're trying to onboard data, it might look like this. So here I onboarded some data from a very well supported data source. So that is the Cisco ASA, right? So when you look here, the fields are not, the actual events are not breaking into correct events, right? So all the events that came in to Splunk are showing up as one single event, right? One single event, correct time zone, but everything is together. No field extractions, nothing is being done properly. All right. So the reason why it happens like this is because in your logs, right? So I'm going to show you the original log that I onboarded, so that you understand what exactly is happening with it, right? So this is the original log that got onboarded to Splunk, right? So if you are aware of how logging works, there are hidden characters in your logs, right? It can be your /r/n, things like that. So what it means is, these are the hidden characters that um, determine where the logs get broken, right? So we have around 193 lines of logs here, and then what we don't see here are the hidden characters, right? So if you have a fancy file editor like Atom for Mac, or Notepad++ for Windows, any of those fancy file editors, what you could do is, if you search here and you put it on regex and you search like this /r or /n and find out, you can see there are hidden characters here, right? So based on these hidden characters, this is how Splunk is actually breaking your logs, right? So even if you don't see it, when the logs are getting ingested, either through syslog, file monitoring, or whatever way you have to onboard through heck or whatever, Splunk is breaking the events every time it sees a /r or a /n, right? So what it means is /r is carriage return and /n is new line. So this is coming from the time when typewriters were famous. So when you are typing on a typewriter, you know, when you get to the end of the line, you have to do a /r, I mean a carriage return. So the whole carriage that was going from one side to another, it have to return to the beginning of the line, right? So that is carriage return, and then /n, so that is new line, right? So a combination of /r and /n determines where your log lines are getting broken, right? So if you are good, if you know programming, you would know when you are writing logs, you have to specify where your field breaking is happening, right? So in our scenario, what happened is I onboarded data without /r and /n, right? So that is why all my data seems to be broken. So in real life, this can happen either like this, where you are onboarding data, right, and then your source, which is your Cisco ASA or any source that you can think of, gets patched in between, and then so they found out a vulnerability or whatever, and then they patched the system, and the OS got updated, and then the developers somehow messed it up, and then the fields are gone. So yesterday it was working, after the update today it doesn't work. Everything is coming like this, right? Or you're trying to onboard custom data source. Your in-house developers were writing it. For whatever reason, this is the format in which the logs are coming, that you need to onboard to Splunk, right? So there's actually two ways of fixing it, right? You can actually reach out to your developer and then tell them that the logs are coming like this, and if they could fix the logs, or you can tell Splunk where the field should be broken, right? So this is where you write your field breaking in your propsconf. So propsconf is the file which determines where your fields get broken, right? So let's actually onboard this same data again, and then this time when we are onboarding, we tell Splunk how to break the events properly, right? So I'm going to go back to add data again. So what you should do is, when you find new data, right, instead of sending it to the main index, or instead of sending it to your production index, what you have to do is onboard your data to a test index and see how it happens, how the data is coming. Or if you have a file of that logs that you want to onboard, you can use the GUI method to onboard your data, and then you can see how the fields are being broken. So now I'm going to select the file. So this is the file that is edited, right? So I click on upload, and then when I check here, I can see the logs are broken, right? So this is where I have to write a new source type, because the existing source type of Cisco ASA will not detect this log properly. So what I'm talking about is, if I say Cisco ASA, it is not going to break your log properly, you see. Even if I put the source type as Cisco, it doesn't break properly, right? So what you have to do is, let's go to default, we put it on default, right? And then first thing that we have to do is time, right? So the most important setting in Splunk is time, right? Without the time, or if the time is wrong, the onboarding data is useless, right? So when we are writing a new source type, first thing what we have to do is reach out to your vendor, or check with your system owner what the time zone is. Okay, so first let's say For this log, we can set this time zone as GMT. Right, most of your Cisco routers or Cisco devices out of the box will come as GMT time, right? But just it's best to check with your system owner or your networking guys what your time zone is, or even your developers what the time zone on the box is, right? So now let's go and let's write the time format, right? The timestamp format. So there's a document on Splunk where we can check what the format should be, right? So this is Splunk time zone. So let's check. So let me look for the link quickly. Splunk time format. So if you search like this, you find using time variables, and then the whole list of time variables are here, right? So what you have to do is you check what your time format is. So this is a May 14 2018, and then the time, right? So first field is your month, right? So let's search for your month. So we have three different ways of writing the month. So we have the Jan Feb format, we have the full format, and we have the numerical format. So here this is your format, so /b. So there's the way you tell Splunk that you have to expect time at the beginning of your event is by putting a prefix, or the way you tell Splunk where your time format is by putting a prefix. So this is always at the start of the line. So for this log, the time format is at the start of the log, right? So we put a prefix as caret. So this basically means you can see the time at the beginning of the log, right? And then we put %b, and then there is a space, we put a space, and this is your day. So we again search what a day is. So this is the day 01 to 31, right? So we put /d, %d, and then again space here. You see there's a space after day, and then is the year, right? So if you check year, we have different formats of year here. So you can do 0099 or the full format. So for this log, it is the full format, right? So we take %y, right? And then again there is a space, and then it asks so what is the hour format. So if you can check the log, we can see the hour format is in 24 hours, right? So there are 24-hour format, say 13/3/56. So this is a 24-hour format. So we go to hour, so 24-hour clock, right? So we do a %h, the %h, and then a full column. So minute is, we check minute, so that is %m, and then there is this full column here. That's why I'm putting the full column here, and then the time, the second, right? So and then so if you do that, %s, right? So we do like this, and then we click on tab. So we know the time got corrected, right? 5:14:18, 8:19 a.m. right? The time got fixed first, right? The time prefix is a character, is a caret. So a caret is in regex language, a caret means the beginning of the line, right? So the first step is completed. We define the time properly, right? Now the second step is breaking the events properly, right? So right now, if you remember from the previous screen, all the lines are looking like a single event, right? So now what we can do is, yeah, so there's a look ahead field here, that this is not mandatory. You can put option, this is an optional field. So look ahead is where we are saying to where we are saying to Splunk how far into the logs you can expect your time field, right? So this one is like, um, how many characters are there? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21. So you can safely say this time zone this time zone won't be 21 characters after the starting of the line, right? So you put this so that data processing is faster, right? Splunk doesn't expect the time field to be 21 characters into the log after 21 characters. So Splunk will not read a time zone after 21 characters. So it's something like that. So it's not a mandatory field. You can read more about look ahead and you will get better understanding of what it is about, right? So now the next thing what you have to do is, you have to do a line break, right? So that is what we have to do. Like all the events are together, so we have to break these events into different lines, right? So if you search again, Splunk line break. So there is a document on Splunk about configure event line breaking, right? So this gives you a different set of options of how to configure your event boundaries, right? So there are different options here. The way you have to on how you can break your lines. So there's two important settings here. One is your line breaker, right? And then you have your should line merge, right? So line breaker is where you tell Splunk where to break your events, right? So what I'm talking about is, this is your first event, right? So this event is going all the way till here, right? This is your first event. This is your second event, right? This is your third event, like this, right? So what I'm saying is, you're telling Splunk to break the events properly, right? So what you should do is, we don't use should line merge, we use something called the line break, right? So new setting, I can put like this, line breaker, and now you tell Splunk where the time zone is, right? So Splunk works with regular expression, right? So you have to um, copy this line. Let's actually take this line, right? And then there's a website called regex 101, right? So if you go to regular expression 101, so this is regex 101, you can write your regex, right? So I'm not covering how to write the regex because it's a different topic itself, but it's quite easy how to write it. So I'll show you how this works. So we put the caret, so if you can see here, that pink thing, so that is defining the start of the line, all right? And then you're telling Splunk /w, and then there is 3 words, right? So it captured the first line, and then we are defining the pattern of your time, right? And then /d plus /s /d plus /s /d plus full colon slash d plus slash full colon slash d plus. So if you can check here, the time field got captured. All right. So we don't need that one here for now. We don't need it. So if you can check here, all the time field got captured, right? So you're telling Splunk whenever you see this pattern, right, you break your event. So there is better ways of writing this field expression. I mean the regex. Just for your understanding, I written it in a simple format. So basically what it means is /w is your character, right, and /d is your numeral. So just think of it like that. The topic of regular expression is very vast. You can think, you can read about regular expression, and then you will understand better, right? So there are obviously better ways of writing it. So just for your understanding, I have written it in a simple format, right? Okay, so now we take this, right? We are going back to your line breaker. We put the field, we put the pattern here, and then we are going to put a bracket. Yeah, we are putting like this here, right? We are putting a bracket here. So this bracket means capture. Alright, so now see what happens. So what we basically did is we wrote a pattern, right? This is the pattern, and anything before the pattern, capture that and break it. Alright. So what happened is when Splunk starts processing your event, it goes like this, it goes like this. Once it reaches here, it identifies this pattern, and then it captures this bracket. Right. So now we can see that event, which looked like this together. Everything was together earlier, right? Now it is separate, right? So let me just put this one back. Line breaker, we write like this and then apply. So now we can save it as a new source type, Cisco book. Alright, so we saved it as a source type, right? And then I can put it on a new on a different on the index, whatever index I want, right? And then review and complete. So now let's see how the data looks like, right? So we remove this, index is equal to main, and when we search here, we can see all the events have come out properly, right? You see, earlier everything was together, right? You see, earlier it was like this. So when we onboarded data the first time, it was like this, and now when we fix the source type, it is like this. So let us go back to our terminal, right? If we do here, if we check here, the props conf actually have our props here, right? So that is done. And now what you could do is you can link the new source type with your other Cisco original source type. You can do a rename, and then you can fix this broken as Cisco, right? And then you can continue with it until such time that the developers actually fix the source. right? So once the source is fixed, you can change your data onboarding back to the normal method, right? So this video is just for your information on how to break your events properly, right? So you don't have to onboard broken data. Just make sure when you're onboarding new data, it is breaking properly, the time zone is getting extracted properly, the other fields whatever you need is getting done properly, and then onboard your data instead of just onboarding your data and then you realize that it is of no use. Because if you can check here, the old data I onboarded it as some random source type. This data is of no use because it's all like together. You can't really make sense of your data, right? So you do it the proper way by sending it to a test index. Like if you want to onboard some new data, you send it to test index. Or if you have a different test system, you send it to that system. Make sure everything is extracting properly, and once everything is done properly, then you can send it to your production index. So that way your production index will stay clean. You don't have to go delete data and then somehow you delete some important data there. You don't have to get into uh, situations like that, right? So that is all for today. I will be back next week with a different topic. So thank you for now. Bye.